The belief that in order to succeed, you have to burn out is incredibly entrenched in our culture. It really goes back to the first industrial revolution, when we started revering machines. And the goal of a machine is to minimize downtime. But for the human operating system, downtime is a feature, not a bug.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for coming back to On Purpose, the #1 health podcast in the world. I'm so grateful that all of you are taking out time to invest in your health and well-being. You could be anywhere in the world right now, but you're either listening to this or watching this. Whether you're walking your dog, you're commuting to or from work, or maybe you're at work, maybe you're taking a break, or maybe you're at the gym. Wherever you are, thank you. Thank you so much for investing in your education over entertainment, but we're going to make this really fun too. And today's guest is someone I'm so grateful and honored to be sitting next to. This lady, just to let you know, she changed my life 3 years ago. So you can only imagine what an important moment this is for me. But she's someone who needs no introduction. She's the founder of the Huffington Post. She's the CEO and founder of Thrive Global and one of the most influential people in the media and world today. Her name is Arianna Huffington. Arianna, thank you so much for doing this, honestly.
Thank you, Jay. I'm so happy to be here with you. Really, I've been looking forward to it all week.
I'm so grateful, honestly, because we're sitting inside Thrive Global right now in New York. These are your brand new offices. They're absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
Your team is amazing as always. And you've opened this up as our home and made us feel so comfortable.
Anytime.
But so today I've got so many things I want to dive into. I feel that you're the thought leader the world really needs today. And I'm so grateful that you've taken it upon yourself to make your mission to help people thrive all across the world. And I want to go back to your book that you called Thrive. It's a book that I believed when I read it, I just felt, I was like, I can't believe someone's actually put this all into words. I connected so deeply with it. And my big question, which I want to start off with, is today, how can our listeners redefine success for themselves? What does it mean to go through that process that you so beautifully outline? Because today we're bombarded by so many definitions of success. How did you start that process and how can our listeners do that?
Well, thank you for starting with the most important question, which was the question I try to address with Thrive the book and that we are working on with Thrive the company. And basically, you know, you and I love reading philosophy, whether it's the Greeks, the Vedas, the Stoic philosophers. And the bottom line is that what is the good life is a constant priority for philosophers, trying to define the good life. What happened in our modern culture is that we shrunk down the definition of the good life to success. And we shrunk the definition of success down to two metrics, money and status/power. And that's like trying to sit on a two-legged stool. Sooner or later, you fall off.
Yes.
So what we're trying to teach here at Thrive and what I'd love everybody listening and watching to take home is to redefine success, to include a third metric. Nothing wrong with the first two. But the third is what completes our purpose, and it includes well-being, prioritizing our health and well-being, wisdom. I love your mission of making wisdom viral. Wonder, a sense of wonder about the universe, the mystery of life, and giving back. That's something that you chronicle so often in your work. So for me, that's what's a complete life. And so anytime you integrate any of these into your daily life, you're getting closer to a fuller definition of the good life.
Yeah, I love that. I absolutely love that. And I think that's so clear. And it's such a great direction for people because we can almost look at that and be like, okay, where am I struggling?
Yes.
Right? It's like we can look at that and say, okay, which leg of that stool is missing in my life? And it becomes a focus area. Now, when I do see that though, sometimes some people may think, well, that's a lot of things to juggle. And maybe I'm working really hard and I'm really ambitious. And that means I'm sacrificing sleep and my health is falling apart. how have you found, or what are your beliefs around real balance in the striving for making an impact, in the striving for wanting to make a difference? How do we also take care of all of those juggling balls? It feels like there's a lot.
There is a lot. And I think the only way is through micro steps. At Thrive, we talk about small, daily, incremental steps that are not hard. We just need to make sure we take one step at a time. Mm-hmm. So whatever it is you want to focus on, let's say you want to focus on improving your sleep because you have actually read the science and the data, and you know that when you improve your sleep, you actually improve your performance. Mm-hmm. So even if you didn't care about your health and you just care about your performance, just look at elite athletes. There's no way Tom Brady would go to a Super Bowl sleep deprived.
Yeah.
Because he knows if he wants peak performance, he needs to get enough sleep, eat right, have recovery time as well as training time. So that's really what I've forgotten. So let me give you one of my favorite sleep micro steps. We have over 700, but I love the fact that you are focusing on making our conversation actionable for people. So my favorite micro step is pick a time at the end of your day that you actually declare the end of your working day. Because the truth is that there is no end to our working day. The truth is that we could all spend the whole night clearing our inboxes or catching up with work in our always-on world. So you have to declare an arbitrary end. And because human beings learn through ritual, you mark that end by turning off your phone and gently escorting it out of your bedroom.
I love that.
It's small but key. Not sleeping with your phone. Are you sleeping with your phone?
No, I don't sleep with my phone.
Amazing. It's absolutely essential because if you sleep with your phone, if you wake up in the middle of the night and you can't go right back to sleep, you are going to be tempted to pick it up and scroll through Instagram or answer some text. And it's much harder to go to sleep and have a deep, really recharging sleep.
Absolutely. Yeah, when I first trained myself to do that, I used to lock all my devices in my car outside. So I used to literally go and put my phone, my laptop, everything, because I wanted to train myself out of the habit. And I remember getting a real alarm clock at that time so that I could still wake up if you need an alarm clock. And now I've been able to train myself to wake up after 8.5 hours of sleep a day. So no matter what time I go to sleep, usually it's the same time. I always sleep 8.5 hours and I don't need an alarm to get up. So I get up naturally. My body wakes me up. And that's been such a beautiful conditioning. And it's taken me time, but it really helps because now you're no longer conditioned to wake up to anything. You can wake up at your own pace.
I think this is amazing what you just said. At first, it may be hard because we're breaking addictions.
100%.
But then the reward of how we feel is so enormous. I mean, for me now, it's like the reward of feeling fully recharged is so great. I don't really like myself when I'm sleep deprived. I mean, I'm more reactive, I'm more emotional,
Me too.
I'm less empathetic, I'm less creative. I don't really want to be around me. So it's actually something that then becomes a magnet to continue doing that.
Are there any other habits that you've had to rewire in your life? Anything that you saw as a trigger and you started building steps, micro steps? I love that, to building. Were there any others?
Yes. Like I used to be one of the people who would think, come January 1st, I'm going to start working out for an hour every day. And then by February 1st, I would drop it. So instead, I put a stationary bike in my bedroom. And now every morning, I do 30 minutes on my bike. And I can be on my email because it's okay. It's a stationary bike, so I feel productive. Mm-hmm. And, when I want to go harder, I just do it without going on my email. But I made it super simple. And now, honestly, I just get out of bed and I get on my bike. It's become like second nature. It's no longer an issue. Because as you know, because you're a student of behavioral science, discipline is not going to cut it. Mm-hmm. we need to change our environment and make it super easy to make these micro steps.
Yes.
And having the bike right there, my tennis shoes right there,
Yes.
makes it much easier.
Yeah, absolutely. You're breaking that chain in your mind to avoid that. I had one client that I used to coach, a very successful executive, and she loved doing yoga, but she could never make it. So we made sure that she had her yoga mat next to her bed, so she could literally roll off her bed and onto her yoga mat. And it would just be like a reminder that it was right there. She didn't have to go to a gym, or she didn't have to go somewhere else. She could do yoga right next to her bed, if that's what it
Exactly.
meant. Just
That's
something to
super
break the
simple.
chain. Yeah, I love that. That's great. And I think I'm sure you hear this all the time. With Thrive Global yourself, you're working with athletes, celebrities, executives, directors. You're working with the busiest people on the planet, right? That's what you do every day. And you know that. And you are one of the busiest people on the planet too. And I'm sure you get people asking you, Ariana, I'm so fearful of falling behind.
Yes.
I'm so scared that someone important will send me a message and I'll miss it, or something will happen in the news and I didn't see the notification. How are you advising people who have that fear or insecurity that they may fall behind?
So that's where changing beliefs is key. So in all our workshops with corporations, we start with changing beliefs, because the beliefs we have are really like the automatic pilot on a ship, and what we tell ourselves we're going to do or is like the captain steering the ship in one way or another. But if the automatic pilot is set in a particular direction, that's where the ship is going to go. Mm-hmm. So we start by changing beliefs, because the belief that in order to succeed, you have to burn out is incredibly entrenched in our culture. Mm. It really goes back to the first industrial revolution, when we started revering machines. And the goal of a machine is to minimize downtime. The goal of software is to minimize downtime. But for the human operating system, downtime is a feature, not a bug. And so we need to show people the data, show people the science, introduce people to ancient wisdom. We've done a wonderful series. I don't know if you've seen it. I'll send it to you, on Chinese ancient wisdom. Mm-hmm. We're doing a lot on Indian wisdom, on Stoic philosophers. Our conference room here, all our conference rooms are named after philosophers, like the Marcus Aurelius room.
Oh, I love that.
Is our boardroom. So the reason for all that is that it requires both science and storytelling to move people. But we have found that the thing that moves people more than anything is hearing from successful people in the arena.
Yes.
It's what you said. It's almost like people need to be given permission and need to hear from people who are successful, who are not chilling under a mango tree. So when Jeff Bezos writes a piece and says, why my getting 8 hours of sleep is good for Amazon shareholders, that piece went crazy viral. And it made a lot of people feel, if Jeff Bezos gets 8 hours of sleep and he's not exactly slowing down, that shows that there is something here for me to look at. Or Philip Schindler, the chief business officer at Google, said to me at a dinner that he had this moment of epiphany when he came home from a trip, and his young children, he told his children, Daddy's taking you to the playground. And his 5-year-old son said, oh no, can't the babysitter take us? And he asked why. And the little boy said, because when you're in the playground, you're always on your phone.
Oh, wow.
And that was his moment of epiphany. And after that, he stopped being on his phone when he's with his children. He travels a lot. It's not like he's with his children all the time.
Yeah.
So he made that sacred time. And then he texted me to let me know what an amazing impact it had within Google. So people who felt that they could also do that they could take that step without being afraid that they are going to fall behind.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think you're so right that science storytelling and that last piece of people living the example is the most powerful, because when we see someone who looks like us, talks like us, walks like us, has the same diary as us, and they can do it. And it's funny, isn't it, that we get impressed? I was at a hangout the other day, and I was with a lot of other social media people, and we were all hanging out together, and no one used their phone for about 3 hours.
Wow.
Because we were all just connecting as human beings. And everyone was, there were a few people there, they were so impressed. They were like, how are you guys not on your phones? And I was just like, because I love this. Like, I love being on a plane. I pretend that planes still don't have Wi-Fi. Like, I just convince myself that Wi-Fi doesn't exist on planes because I love being able to switch off. Like what you're saying, that it's not a bug, right?
It's a feature.
It's a feature. I love that. That's so powerful that when we feel, and that's our problem, right? Like we think when we're slowing down, we're like, oh God, why am I slowing down? I need to, we panic. We go, oh no, I'm becoming less productive. But actually that's a feature reminding us to press pause, to slow down, to restart.
And then we can actually observe why and how we become more productive. Why do people say that they get their best ideas in the shower?
Yeah.
It's the truth is that our best ideas come from the wisdom within. And that's why when you talk about making wisdom go viral, that's also part of what allows people to connect with their own inner wisdom. And their best ideas come from that.
Absolutely. Let's talk about inner wisdom a bit, because I think we both believe in it very strongly. I know that in my life, I feel I've always been guided by my inner wisdom.
Yes.
I rarely feel guided by my head. I rarely try and feel guided by the market or the industry. I'm constantly looking to my inner compass to be guided. I'd love to hear from you how you've done that in your life and how you've been able to sift out your inner voice from the noise that often arises from everything around us.
So for me, that's kind of the heart of everything I'm doing and that we're doing at Thrive, which is the truth. And that I believe is an absolute truth, that every one of us has a place of wisdom, peace, and strength inside us. It's our birthright. No matter what we do or where we are or where we are born, we do have that. And most of the time, we are completely disconnected from it. And that's such a shame. It's like having been given this incredible inheritance and not even knowing that you have it. And that's why I love when Thich Nhat Hanh said that right now, with our addiction to our phones and social media and games, he said it has never been easier to run away from ourselves. And so everything we're doing here is helping people reconnect with that place. Now, there is nobody I know who lives in that place all the time.
Of course.
That's not what we're saying. What we want to create is a great course-correcting mechanism so that we know, I kind of know, and I'm sure you know when I'm not in that place. And so the first thing I want to do is help myself get back to that place, whatever it takes. Because from that place, I'm so much more productive, so much more creative, and so much more joyful. We don't talk enough about joy. But after all, the purpose of life is not just to be productive.
Yeah, definitely not.
This is not a dress rehearsal.
Absolutely.
So if we can also connect with our joy and our loving, suddenly life becomes kind of like a little miracle.
Yeah, absolutely. What are a few things people can do every day to get that voice back for themselves? Like you said, I think so many of us have run so far away from ourselves, like Thich Nhat Hanh mentioned, you quoted, that we don't even know what ourself is anymore.
Yes.
Right? Like, it's like, well, what is it? Like, I have 10 voices in my head, and one of them's a TV show, and one of them's my favorite song, and one of them's my mom's voice and my dad's voice. Like, what are a couple of things that people can do on a daily basis that's going to help them get closer to that voice again?
Well, I believe, and I know you do too, that one of the keys is gratitude. That doesn't mean not acknowledging the pain, because the pain is often real. There is a lot of pain in the world and in our lives, but also recognizing that the pain is not everything. The hardship is not everything. The darkness is not everything. And being able to hold, when we are going through a hard time, these two realities in our hearts as well as our heads at the same time.
Yes.
That for me is the key. And so doing again micro steps, like starting your morning, taking 1 minute in the morning, 1 minute to remember 3 things you're grateful for, or set your intention for the day, is absolutely key. If you don't have 1 minute, you don't have a life. And the majority of people go directly to their phone first thing in the morning. And you don't know what you're going to see.
Yeah, no, not at all.
And so suddenly the cortisol hormone, the stress hormone floods your body before you have even gotten out of bed. So how you start your day is absolutely key.
Yeah.
And so is how you end your day.
Yeah.
Because every day is a mixture of good things and bad things happening. I've never had a day which was all amazing.
No.
Well, maybe 1 or 2, but it's not the norm.
Of course.
So you can go to bed thinking of all the things that went wrong. Or you can go to bed and thinking of all the things you're grateful for.
Yes. Yes.
And that changes the quality of your sleep.
Yes.
So what is interesting, Jay, as you know, is that in terms of our evolution, our mind tends to go to the negative because that's how we survived, right? I mean, if we were followed by a tiger and focused on the sunset, we would not be here.
Yes.
But right now, we continue to live in this fight or flight mode, even though there aren't a lot of tigers around.
Definitely not.
And that's what we need to change.
Absolutely. And I love what you're saying, because actually I think when I lived as a monk for 3 years, one of the biggest principles we talked a lot about was how when we are asked to be grateful for something, we only remember the positive. Whereas actually, a lot of the times when we've been in our greatest pain, that's been the greatest path to our potential.
Yes.
That actually the pain, the suffering, the tragedy, the falling down was actually the moment of our rise and growth. And I've noticed that when I look in reflection in gratitude, or I look in hindsight, it's actually the lowest point of my life that became the birth of the best moments of my life. And it's so easy to forget that. But now when I'm going through painful moments, I'm always saying to myself, don't judge this moment as painful. Don't judge the moment, because this could be the moment that leads to the next best thing that happens to you. And so becoming grateful in that pain too.
Absolutely.
Right?
Completely agree with that. It's like the Leonard Cohen song, that the light comes in through the cracks.
Yes, exactly, yes.
And I know that from my life, when I look back, I remember one of the most painful moments in my life was when I was very much in love with this brilliant writer in London. And we were together for 7 years. By now I was 30 and I really, really wanted to have children. And he was clear he didn't want to have children. He only wanted to have cats. And so I had to make this tough decision. I could stay with him, but then I wouldn't have children. Or if I wanted to fulfill that dream, I would have to leave him.
Yeah.
And it was an incredible moment of heartbreak. I really left London and moved to New York to put the kind of the ocean behind us. And yet, when I look back now, that one thing changed my life. So what was like the hardest moment at the time became the moment that allowed me to move here, have my children, build the Huffington Post, launch Thrive, be here with you. And it all happened because a man wouldn't marry me.
Yeah. It's crazy.
So I say we all need to look back and look at all the things that were terrible heartbreaks and what did they lead to.
Yes, absolutely. Mine fun. I don't think you know this. Mine, funnily enough, was I obviously moved to New York to work with HuffPost when we were together. And then you left to start Thrive. And I left HuffPost at the same time. And that was one of the toughest periods in my life because I had all these views and things were growing online, but I no longer had my sponsor in you of someone who greatly believed in my work.
Yes.
And at that time, I really had to be the person who believed in myself and build my own world. And so I went through one of the toughest periods of my life because I went from having someone who believed in my work, someone incredible, influential like yourself, to having no one, to then having to do it myself. And it was the best thing that happened to me. And that was only 2 years ago. And
it's amazing.
Yeah, and it was just one of those moments that I'm so grateful for, because otherwise I would have carried on doing what I was doing, and it would have been nice. It would have been okay. There would have been nothing bad about it. But it gave me a launch pad to a new life. And so I'm very grateful that you started Thrive Global for many reasons, but also for the reason because it allowed me to be born myself again.
I love that. And I think we all should be doing more to tell the stories of these heartbreaks and what they led to.
Yes.
Because nobody who has succeeded has had like a linear path where everything went great.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm really glad you brought up having children, because that was actually my next topic. So I wanted to talk to you about that. And I have this thing. I talk about making wisdom go viral. I talk a lot about wisdom. My 3 areas are self, love, and work. Those are my 3 areas which I believe I have some insight on, or I've loved and deeply want to help people with. Now, there's one area of my life that I have no wisdom on, and that's parenting, right? I'm not a parent yet. I don't claim to have any wisdom on parenting, but I have a lot of my audience and my community that loves asking questions. So one of the biggest questions I get asked right now is, Jay, I feel a lot of mum guilt of working on my passion, building my passion, but then having to be there for my children and wanting to be there too. And I hear that a lot. I'm sure you've heard it for a long, long time, but I hear it a lot. So I wanted to ask someone who, and I've seen you with your daughters, you have a beautiful relationship with them. They have a beautiful relationship with you. It's so real and genuine. And at the same time, you're someone who is continuing to innovate, continuing to be a pioneer. How have you not mastered that, because I know you won't even say you've done that, but how have you managed that? And how have you continued to live your passion, build your passion, impact lives, and maintain a real bond with your children?
Well, first of all, the mom guilt is kind of pretty much universal. Yeah. And I really feel sometimes that they take the baby out and they put the guilt in. That's how universal it is. And we've just launched a parenting workshop, and it's going to be part of our digital product that helps women through micro steps, and men too, because men have it, although not to the same extent, to recognize that if you follow your passion, you're going to be a better parent. Because if you think that by not following your passion, I mean, first of all, for most people in the world, it's not even a choice, because people work, they need to make a living. But even, let's say that was not the issue, but this is something that you love and fulfills your purpose, there's no way you would be as good a parent if you didn't fulfill that. And also, I find that what matters most is when you are with your children to be fully there. I think the worst thing that we do as parents is multitasking.
Yes.
The idea that I'm with my child, I'm having dinner, or I'm helping with their homework, and I'm surreptitiously looking at my phone.
Yes.
That's the thing that is really painful for the child. I mean, children take this signs to heart, but also being able to allow yourself to be fully present, whether it's with your child or at work. And when the guilt comes, recognizing it's not the truth. I call it's the obnoxious roommate living in my head.
Yeah.
That voice of self-doubt, questioning, that doesn't allow us to be fully present. And for me, my daughters know that however busy they are, they come first. Yeah. So if they need me, I will drop anything to be with them. That's what really matters to children, that sense of unconditional loving.
Yeah. What I love about what I'm hearing from you as a future father is that when I have kids, I really believe that because I'm getting to do what I love every day and I'm passionate about it, I'm going to have that energy cascade onto my children. They're going to experience my joy. But if I was to give all this up, and even if I was with them 24/7, I'd probably drive them mad because I wouldn't have anything to give them. Like, what am I going to offer them? And so I love that. And so even if you're a parent out there and you're listening right now, and it's not about changing your career or doing your passion, it could just be doing your hobby once a week, taking a mum's night once a week, hanging out with your friends once a week, whatever you need to refuel, your kids are going to feel that energy.
That's the key, whatever you need to refuel. Because when we're not refueled and we give from a place of being empty and depleted, it's not real giving. I mean, we all have to do it and we all had to do it, but giving from our overflow is just amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Giving from our overflow. That's exactly it. And if we're not overflowing, then we are just giving from our half-filled cup.
Yes.
Or our quarter-filled cup. And that's
or our empty cup.
Or our empty cup. And that's why we're feeling drained and dried up. So what I really want to understand is, how have you changed what you do to refuel over the years?
Yes.
So from the moment when you were building a company through to now, I want to know that, because I also think that a lot of people's methods for refueling change over time. And we get scared when our methods change. So when you were in your teens, you used to go and party. And when you're in your 30s, I know, or 40s, some people are still trying to do the same thing to refuel as they were, and it doesn't work the same, or it doesn't feel the same. So how have yours changed?
Well, that's part of being connected with ourselves and getting the signs. I mean, I was blessed to have an amazing mother who was very connected with her own wisdom and ancient wisdom. And even though she never went to college, she was self-taught. And she taught my sister and me to meditate when I was 13. And I didn't do it consistently at the beginning, but it definitely was an incredible gift. So I bought into the delusion that the only way to succeed is to be always on, to sacrifice my own health and well-being, which is absurd. You know, we claim to be data-driven. The data is so clear. That's not what works. I mean, look at the founder myth. Over 3/4 of startups fail. So there's something wrong about the assumption that you have to be always on to succeed. Look at Elon Musk. I mean, he's a brilliant visionary. But what he's doing by exhausting himself and tweeting in the middle of the night things that are not true about taking his company private, leading to SEC investigations, having to step down as chairman, paying a $20 million fine. How can this be good for the company you are building? So whatever it is that we are all doing, finding our own ways to refuel is key. For me, the foundation of my refueling became sleep. I even wrote a book, as you know, The Sleep Revolution.
It's a great book. It's a great
with all the latest science about why it is so essential, because sleep is not optional. It's an incredibly active time for the brain. It's the only time when the brain can clean up all the accumulated toxins from the day. And it is essential to our health and to our cognitive performance. So that's my number one thing. My number two thing that we teach a lot here is the recognition that it takes 1 minute to course correct from stress. It's not like a long time, but you need to do it every time you feel you're stressed out. So we are launching a behavior change platform, and this product is at the heart of it, to help people when they are stressed to get a recommendation for a micro step. And the micro step can be as small as closing your eyes here, or even not closing your eyes if you're in a public space and you don't want to, and consciously focusing on your breathing. Literally, I mean, I did a 1 minute meditation at Dreamforce.
When you sat on the cloud. I love that.
I sat on the cloud, and I just put it on my Instagram a couple of days ago, because it is so simple. And, you know, if you practice it and take 1 minute, it's just extraordinary how you course correct from stress. And, you know, nobody's going to eliminate stress from their lives. what we're looking for is not to make it cumulative.
Yes. One of the things I think we have to realize is that what you're pointing out is that there's acute stress and chronic stress. And acute stress is good sometimes. We need that kind of like, oh my God, I need to get this done. It's important. We all feel stressed before we go and give a keynote, or you feel stressed before a big meeting at work. But it's the chronic stress. It's that repeated stress. It's the stress that's underlying and building up, like you said, cumulative stress. That's the one we really need to be wary of.
Exactly. So just to give you an example, at Thrive, we're not a 9-to-5 company. We have huge ambitions. People work hard. But we tell everybody, if you have a project that requires you to pull an all-nighter or do extra intense work, take Thrive time after that. That is the key. Don't continue working as though you had not expended extra energy and are depleted.
Yes.
Because if you do that, just look at the data. Either you're going to get sick because your immune system is going to be compromised. So you may think you're powering through or grinding through. Your body is going to let you down.
Yeah.
And also, your decisions and your work are not going to be as good as they could have been.
Absolutely. And I love your consistent point about the data is showing this. Like the data is showing this.
Yes.
If we're data driven, there's no debate. There's no debate.
There's no debate.
Yeah, the data.
It's not my opinion.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's not your opinion. It's not a philosopher's opinion. It's not the opinion of, let's be fluffy and let's believe in well-being. It's data driven. So
wellness is a 4.3 trillion category.
Yes.
But it's not defined.
Yes.
It can mean anything. It can mean warm and fuzzy things.
Yes.
Nothing wrong with them, but that's not what we're talking about.
No.
We're talking about hardcore, science-driven, data-driven realities, which also happen to be validating ancient wisdom. That's what I love.
Exactly. Yeah. And I love that because when I started reading your books, which I highly recommend, Sleep Revolution and Thrive, like they're two of my favorite books. What I loved about them is it's exactly what I try and do is the bridge between ancient wisdom, modern science, and then practical application. How is this relevant now? How can you take it about now?
And the reason why I love ancient wisdom the way you do is because we are not Pavlov's dogs. We do have a heart and a soul.
Yes.
And so if we really want to change behavior, we need to capture our imagination. That's what we are building. The product we are building intends to sort of crack the code on behavior change.
Yes.
The reason why behavior change doesn't work most of the time is because we only appeal to people's minds, and we're more than our minds.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Ariana, you're amazing. And I hope we're going to do many, many more of these. And this conversation, I believe, is just the starting point. I just wanted people to dive into your wealth of wisdom. I highly recommend it. If you've loved this conversation, I'm a big proponent of Ariana's books. I think they're phenomenal. And if you haven't checked out Thrive Global yet, make sure you check them out. They're doing incredible work online in companies and bringing all of this to the work environment, which I think is so important. Having worked at Accenture myself, who I know works very closely with you, it's incredible to see this work infusing into the corporate culture.
And also, phenomenal. I would love to invite your listeners to tell their stories. AH@thriveglobal.com is my email. Send it to me and we'll give you a password and you can post them on Jay's channels and on Thrive Global. The question is, how can we accelerate the distribution of these ideas?
I love that. That's awesome. So, Ariana, we end every podcast with what I call the final 5. These are the final 5 rapid fire answer. It can either be a 1-word, 3-word, or 1-sentence answer. No more than that.
Okay.
So I'm being a bit lenient, but this is it. It's easy for you. What's the first thing you do when you wake up?
The first thing I do when I wake up is focus on my breath and 3 things I'm grateful for.
Me too. I love that. What's the last thing you do before you go to bed?
The last thing is, again, focus on my breath and 3 things I'm grateful for.
I love it. If I went through your phone, whose number would I want to steal?
I think you would want to steal Bill Maher's number.
Okay. Why?
Because he's such a truth teller. I don't agree with everything, But I love him. He and I have been friends forever. And also because he's unbelievably private. So it's a very hard number to get.
I like it. Awesome. I'm going to have to try and grab your phone later. What's the most used app on your phone?
So, I have basically removed most apps from my phone.
Nice.
So the most intimate thing I do is texting with my daughters and my friends. And of course, I'm obsessed with our Thrive app.
Yes.
Because I integrate in my life all the micro steps that are fed to me, but also because I'm a big believer in constantly iterating and improving it.
Yes.
So I'm giving constant feedback. So I use it for myself, but I also use it as a tool to keep improving it.
Awesome. And question 5 of the final 5 is, what do you consider your biggest accomplishment so far?
Oh, absolutely. Without question, my 2 daughters.
I love that.
I love them so much. My oldest daughter just got engaged, and I'm so happy because
I saw the pictures.
Her fiancé, somebody I love, that I actually hired for the Huffington Post.
Oh, no way. Oh, that's amazing. I didn't know that part of it.
Well, he now works with Jeffrey Katzenberg and Infatuation.
Yeah. Oh, Infatuation, yes.
Yeah, which is one of the companies that he identified and they invested in. But anyway, I love them. We are very close. I feel very blessed to be as close to them. And I can't wait to become a grandmother, Jay.
Amazing. I love it. Well, Ariana, thank you so much for taking this time. Thank you for opening up your office. Thank you so much for sharing that opportunity for my audience and community to reach out to you as well and share that idea. I love that. We'll definitely let everyone know. And please, please, please go and check out Ariana. If you don't follow her already, find her on Instagram, find her on Facebook, find her on Twitter. All of her insights, anything that you've loved today, her Instagram and social media feeds are absolutely full of it. So make sure you do that. Ariana, thank you so much for making the time.
And thank you so much for everything you are doing for the world. Thank you.
Oh no, thank you so much. Thank you. If you want even more videos just like this one, make sure you subscribe and click on the boxes over here. I'm also excited to let you know that you can now get my book, Think Like a Monk, from thinklikeamonkbook.com. Check below in the description to make sure you order today. All we have right now is time and our attention. So where our attention goes needs to be really carefully thought out. Therefore, that's where self-knowledge comes in. As my compatriot Socrates said, the unexamined life is not worth living. So we need to examine our lives, examine our habits without judgments, and just begin with micro steps. Hey everyone, welcome back to On Purpose, the #1 health podcast in the world. Thanks to each and every single one of you that come back every week to listen, learn, and grow. Now today we have a really special and exciting guest, one of the few people that we've ever had on the podcast twice. It is none other than my dear friend, mentor, and someone who I consistently tell you changed my life, the one and only Ariana Huffington. Now, I'm so thrilled because Ariana is the CEO and founder of Thrive Global. She's been named as the world's 100 most influential people by Time Magazine and has also been included on the Forbes Most Powerful Women's list. She's a mother, best-selling author, businesswoman, as well as a dear friend of mine. And today we'll also be talking about Thrive Global's latest book, Your Time to Thrive. If you're someone right now who's been struggling, working from home, remote work, trying to figure out how to manage the stress of everything we've experienced in the last 12 months, this is the book for you. This is the podcast for you. If you're someone who's sitting there at home right now thinking, Jay, I just don't know how much more I can deal with this, this is the conversation you want to be listening to. Ariana, welcome to the podcast.
Jay, so great to be with you. I love every day reading and watching you spread wisdom, making wisdom viral. I love that.
Well, I'm so grateful to you, especially now as we were just talking about the wonderful Thrive original top you're wearing, onward, upward, and inward. I love that as a motto. I think that's a brilliant mantra and motto.
It's very much what your work has been about, to remind us that when we go inward, our journey onward and upward is better in every possible way.
It's so true. It's so true. And one thing I love that we're having this conversation today, Ariana, is because you built Thrive Global. And by the way, I just want to remind everyone, so my first day in New York City was Ariana Huffington's first day of starting up Thrive Global. Ariana, I don't know if you remember, we were at the final party, like a celebration party of you moving on from HuffPost and starting Thrive Global. And you said in your speech, you said, whether you've been here since day one or whether you just joined yesterday like Jay Shetty, I want you to know that you're all part of the family. And I remember just seeing you go off and start this new company, this new organization destined to help people's well-being in their daily lives at work. You must be feeling like the purpose of the company is coming alive right now more than ever.
Actually, Jay, you're absolutely right. And anytime you leave something established and successful to start something new, there is a risk involved. And I remember actually agonizing over that decision and talking to Sheryl Sandberg. And she said to me, stop thinking about it. Just close your eyes and jump. And sometimes that's what life requires of us. And the themes that we build Thrive around, ending the stress and burnout epidemic, making well-being an essential and central part of our lives, have now become more important than ever. They've really gone mainstream because the pandemic has forced everyone, whether individuals or companies, to recognize, how foundational our well-being is to everything. And finally, Jay, ending the delusion that in order to succeed, we have to burn out, we have to power through exhaustion, we have to be always on, which is simply not supported by science or data or ancient wisdom.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think the level of burnout that we've seen in the last 12 months, and I would like to mention that whether that's companies that are growing or struggling in the last 12 months, certain companies went through their biggest growth curve in the last 12 months and their employees have experienced burnout. And then other people obviously were laid off. What are some of the trends that you've noticed over the last 12 months of how people are experiencing burnout and stress and pressure? What have you been seeing through the data, through your company's work? In what are the biggest challenges that people are having?
So what we are seeing is that all the challenges we were facing pre-pandemic have been exacerbated, which is a bad thing, but also a good thing. We can no longer avoid dealing with them. And the primary challenges that we're dealing with are, first of all, the mental health crisis, which existed before the pandemic, but now it's right in front of us with hundreds of millions of people around the world being affected with depression, anxiety, and also the skyrocketing increase of diseases, especially diabetes and heart disease, which also have become much worse because of the stress levels. But also it's forced us to realize that we are never going to be able to deal with the mental health crisis or all these diseases if we don't go upstream and change our behaviors. And that's why we wrote this book, to make it clear to people that changing behaviors through micro steps, small daily incremental steps, is very doable. To actually take lofty goals like I'm going to lose 30 pounds or give up sugar or work out every day, and break them down into the smallest possible actionable step. We call our micro steps too small to fail. And there are 8 chapters that break down all the micro steps. And the first one, because Jay, I believe it is foundational to our well-being, is sleep. As you know, I'm an evangelist on sleep. We all sleep, and increasingly during the pandemic, we've all had a harder time sleeping or falling back asleep after we wake up. In fact, there is a term called coronasomnia. But there are small daily steps we can take to improve our sleep and to reduce the stress, which makes it easier to sleep.
I'm so glad that you brought up sleep and coronasomnia, which I had not heard actually. But I know when I read your book, Sleep Revolution, that really gave me the permission to feel like I needed quality sleep. It really did that. Like when I read it and you share the stories of so many of your friends, CEOs of large companies all over the world who prioritize sleep. One of the things I find right now, the reason why people are struggling at home to sleep, to practice, what's a micro step they can take towards better sleep? And I love your idea of micro steps because I practice it in my own life. And your definition actually is the best definition I've ever heard of a micro step, of too small to fail. Because if you fail at a step, then it wasn't micro enough. And so that's a great, great definition. What's a great micro step we can all take towards getting better sleep during this time?
So, Jay, actually, out of all the hundreds of micro steps in the book, my absolute favorite is to pick a time at the end of the day that you declare the end of your workday. And to mark this end with a ritual, because, we are creatures of rituals. And the ritual is turn off your phone and charge it outside your bedroom. Now, you may say to me, Ariana, that's too big a micro step for me. I'll say, not a problem. Jay, can you pick one day a week when you can do that? Maybe Friday night or Saturday night. Just start wherever you are. If you say, no, Ariana, that's too big a step for me, I say, okay, can you just put your phone on airplane mode? But instead of putting it on your nightstand, which 72% of people do, put it somewhere further away. So if you wake up in the middle of the night and you can't immediately go to sleep, most people, Jay, go to their phone. And that's like allowing your day life with all its challenges and problems to invade your nightlife, which is the time to really deeply surrender to sleep and recharge. So that's my favorite micro step.
That's a brilliant micro step. And I love how compassionate and empathetic you are in simplifying it and making it easier every time. I love that micro step. I think it's absolutely brilliant. And I remember years ago, you built those beautiful Thrive phone beds. Yeah, they're fantastic.
And phone bed is great if anybody listening has children and they're about to be given their first phone. We have this charging station that looks like a little phone bed. You can put the phones under the blanket, tuck them in, and reconnect in the morning. So you teach your children like phone hygiene, which is your phone and you don't sleep together.
I think it's brilliant. I think it's such a cool idea, and you've made it trendy again for people to know how to have these habits. And I think what I like about your approach, Ariana, is that it's very real, and even that it's almost comedic. It's funny. It's playful. It's not like this harsh discipline. It's not military. There's this love and joy behind it. I see on Instagram you're always posting joy triggers.
I always post your joy triggers. You are my go-to. I love it. You are my go-to place for joy triggers, and we both recognize the importance of joy. In fact, for me, Jay, joy is a barometer of how I'm doing. It's like at some point in my life, I knew I could be effective and productive, right? I didn't have to prove that to myself anymore. So my test now is, am I bringing joy into my daily life? I'm not talking about all the time. I mean, I'm dealing with challenges. I'm dealing with problems. I'm working on my own reactivity. I'm a work in progress. I'm on this journey. But if I can't find joy in what I'm doing, it means that I need to course correct. It's almost like a sign for me to course correct. And that's like the key to all our micro steps. To recognize that we all have this place of wisdom, peace, strength in us. It's like our birthright, right? And nobody lives there all the time. And the opportunity now is to be aware of when we are not there and how quickly can we course correct. It's almost like on course, off course, on course, off course, and a judgment-free zone.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like right now, everyone's judging themselves to be the perfect person, the perfect partner, the perfect parent. And it's exhausting because we're all dealing with something that we've never experienced before. No one's ever been in this situation before in history. And here we are. What are some of the ways we can become more loving to ourselves, more empathetic to ourselves at these times? Because like you said, you're asking yourself, how can I bring joy into my life? I think a lot of people are asking themselves, well, maybe I'm not working hard enough with my kids, or maybe maybe I'm not working out enough, or maybe how do we train ourselves out of that? Or how do we approach that and navigate that properly?
Well, as you know, Jay, the first step is to accept where we are and not judge it. And loving ourselves is kind of a prerequisite for really, truly loving others out of our overflow. And so for me, gratitude is the antidote to anxiety, to stress, to guilt. So I practice what in the book we call habit stacking. So anytime I'm doing things that don't require my brain, like washing my hands, washing the dishes, washing my hair, I repeat to myself things I'm grateful for. Like right now, I'm having my bulletproof coffee. I don't know if you like bulletproof coffee, but I love it. And I'm grateful for this every morning. I'm grateful that I'm here with you, and this is, it fills my heart. Um, I'm really very grateful every day that I do work that is meaningful, going back to on purpose, and has an impact on people's lives. I feel extremely grateful for that. So remembering all these things constantly, literally, Jay, as you know, moves us from the sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight nervous system, to the parasympathetic nervous system. Gratitude and anxiety cannot coexist. What I love about this moment we are in is that modern science is validating so much of ancient wisdom. If you take what I consider the hero feature in our app and in the Microsteps book is the 60-second reset. And I love the fact that if you tell people, can you take 20 minutes to meditate, they may throw their arms in the air and say, oh, Rihanna, I don't have the time to take 20 minutes to meditate. Can you take 5 minutes to meditate? Oh, that's really hard. Do you have 60 seconds? We break it down to 60 seconds. And 60 seconds, another favorite micro step in the morning, before you go to your phone. 60 seconds to set your intention for the day, to take deep conscious breaths, to remember what you're grateful for, anything, kind of almost like reconnect with yourself before the world comes at you. And so that is at the heart of every religion. If you look at Islam, let's take Islam. I mean, the call to prayer is kind of unbelievable. It's like these tiny interventions during the day when you have to get up from what you're doing, stretch, which is great, and reconnect with something larger than yourself. And every religion, Judaism, Christianity, Buddhism, have like these short moments, that, having been a monk, that bring us back to center. So we've integrated that in our app and in the micro steps for anybody who feels overwhelmed with their to-do list or their Zoom fatigue or whatever they're dealing with.
That's such a brilliant piece of advice. And I love how, again, no one can say they don't have 60 seconds. And it's amazing that you spoke about Islam there for a moment too, because I was recently in Dubai, where the call to prayer is happening in the morning and throughout the day, the 5 times a day. And I went skydiving for the first time in my life. And the free fall is exactly 60 seconds. And so for anyone who doesn't say that 60 seconds is a long time, it's enough time to get your intention right in the morning. It's a brilliant amount. So the skydive was 60 seconds of free falling, and then 6 to 7 minutes of parachute falling once the parachute is released. And now that you're saying that, when I was in that 60 seconds of free fall, I was trying to meditate and pray and experience, and you can achieve a lot in 60 seconds. And so I think that is for anyone who's there going, well, 60 seconds, what am I going to do in the morning? We don't realize we pick up this within 3 seconds or 1.5 seconds. And so 60 seconds in the morning, that is such a brilliant invention. Because just being present with yourself and letting your heart rate naturally get up, letting your brain actually wake up, letting your mind wake up, that's such a great micro step.
And now we've brought it into our team meetings at Thrive. So we start our team meetings with these 60 seconds. And we have, everybody can create their own reset. Like you could create a reset with pictures that you love of your wife, your loved ones, quotes, music, everything. And in 60 seconds, you are reminded of what you love about your life. So we play this. Somebody from the team plays their reset, which also connects us to each other. So there's so much we can do that connects us with ourselves, connects us with others, and doesn't take a lot of time.
Wow. So every meeting starts with someone sharing their 60-second
Sharing the reset. I'll send you mine just to see. It has pictures of my daughters, my favorite quotes like Rumi, live life as though everything is rigged in your favor, landscapes of Greece, music, and a breathing pacer. 60 seconds.
I love that. I mean, every company should be doing this. This is brilliant. I love this advice. And I hope everyone who's listening and watching, I hope you're thinking about your Zoom calls and how you can start your next Zoom call with your company set differently. I hope that you can recommend this to people within the company. Ariana, tell us a bit about that. Let's say some of our listeners are inside an organization, but they're not necessarily a leader or a senior manager. How do they effect change? You've worked at the beginning of a company, you've owned companies, you've sold companies, you now have a new company, you have employees at all different levels. How does someone more junior in an organization create change when it comes to health and wellness?
So one of the great things about this time, Jay, is that these questions of well-being and transformational change within companies is no longer just the province of HR. Everybody's talking about it, from the C-suite to every intern. So anybody can raise their hand. There's such a greater opening to people expressing how they are feeling, if they need help, come up with ideas to suggest. And anybody who wants more ideas, please reach out to me on Instagram, LinkedIn, any medium of communication. And we are happy to send you a lot of ideas. In fact, we have partnered with Zoom, and Zoom is bringing Thrive Reset as a downloadable app so that anybody can actually download it and be able to create their own reset. But even without that, anybody can have these 60-second protocols. If for anybody who is maybe thinking, oh, this sounds like warm and fuzzy, for a high growth company, let me just tell you, I was interviewing Mark Benioff yesterday on my podcast. He's an investor in Thrive. And we were talking about how he starts meetings with closing his eyes for a minute. And everybody around him knows that he's not zoning out, he's not going to sleep, he's just coming fully present to tap into what is best in him, his creativity, his empathy, his best ideas. So I always like to make it clear that a lot of hyper successful people use these small micro steps to make them even more effective, and that these things are not like for people who just want to chill under a mango tree.
Absolutely. No, I think I love that you've built an app into Zoom that's a Thrive Reset. I think that's fantastic. I think that we live at a time where we need these digital tools to remind us of being more present with our physical, mental, and emotional and spiritual selves. Because we've become so wired to our devices, we need our devices to help us in that process. How have you found, though, Ariana, that a lot of people just feel this addiction to scrolling? And you've worked with Tristan, who is obviously the social dilemma. I remember when you introduced me to Tristan's work years ago, before the social dilemma even came out. Tell us a bit about that approach that you've seen through your micro steps with people's addiction to scrolling endlessly. Like me and you look for joy triggers, but what if people are just scrolling on Instagram and TikTok and losing themselves in that? How have you found to help people remove that addiction from their lives?
Well, first of all, it is a real addiction. And that's why our second chapter in the book is called Unplugging and Recharging. You know, how can we unplug from what has become so dominant in our culture? Basically, everybody in our lives is competing with our phone. Your wife, your children, your friends, you know, it's as though this thing is the most interesting thing in our lives and we can't separate ourselves from it. So, as Thich Nhat Hanh said, you know, it has never been easier to run away from ourselves. Yet, at the same time, we can use, paradoxically, digital tools to help us disconnect from technology. It is a paradox, but truth is often paradoxical. So, you know, the reset example is one of them. But the fundamental problem of our addiction, because it is real, requires us to take steps. For example, if you are particularly addicted to Instagram, take it off your front page so that you have to download it. You have to be intentional to go there. I mean, there are great stuff. There's great stuff on Instagram. Really, I mean, I love following you, and I get joy from the quotes and from everything you have. But there's so much that leads to comparisons, that makes people feel less than, that is just something we need to honor and love ourselves enough not to expose ourselves to all that, because all we have right now is time and our attention. So where our attention goes needs to be really carefully thought out. And therefore, that's where self-knowledge comes in. As my compatriot Socrates said, the unexamined life is not worth living. So we need to examine our lives, examine our habits without judgments, and just begin with micro steps. You know, if you can't take a social media account you're particularly addicted to off your phone, can you move it to gray? Can you end all notifications that are not personal? I have no notifications on my phone. I don't get breaking news because, first of all, 99% of the time it's not breaking. And second, anytime, I don't want to be constantly interrupted. That's how we need to see that. Anytime I want to get the news, I go get the news. But it's on my timing.
Yes. I love what you said there of setting the time of when do we want a piece of information? When do we want to reach out to this person? When do we want to connect with this idea? I think that what you just said is intentional, curated living. And unfortunately, our world has made us unintentional livers. We live unintentionally and unconsciously, where we're just exposed to whatever anyone feels like exposing us to. And then, you may not be in the right mindset to take on some breaking news. And I loved what you said. Half the time, breaking news is not even breaking news. It's just trying to get our attention. Tell me about, Ariana, what do you think has been your biggest challenge in the last 12 months personally? And also, what has been your biggest opportunity that you've seized and that you've gained and grown with in the last 12 months?
So the biggest challenge has been that Thrive has been growing very fast. So I had to hire a lot of people that I
I
have
can
never
imagine.
met.
Yeah, that's crazy, isn't it?
It's
It's
crazy.
crazy.
I'm Greek. I want to break bread and look you in the eye. And I had to hire a COO and a head of business development and a head of sales. I mean, really very senior positions that I have never met. And that took some kind of developing some new intuitive abilities and being able to look you in the eye through Zoom and like trust these feelings that you want to trust when you are hiring somebody that goes beyond their resume and their references. The best thing has been that in this year of incredible pain and grief, we can never underestimate that. It's been a year of unbelievable losses of life, financial losses. We also have a catalyst for transformational change. And as you know, Jay, transformational change is hard. Like we have known for a while that we had to change the way we work and live, that the breathless, frenetic way we're living is not sustainable. We have known for a while that the growing inequalities in our country are unsustainable and unjust, racial inequity. We've known for a while about the existence of these problems. I've been to so many conferences about inclusive capitalism, etc., planetary sustainability, but so little has been done. And now, as somebody said, a crisis is a terrible thing to waste. So we have an opportunity to use this crisis as a catalyst for fundamental change.
I agree. What really resonated with me with what you were saying is this challenge of having to create human connection through digital media where we've never met someone. I think that is it's truly, I've also made mistakes in that department in the last 12 months, because in the same way my work was growing and I've had to think about hiring and recruiting through digital, and I haven't got it right many times because, yeah, your intuitive capabilities through a screen. I mean, we know each other, we've spent time together, and so this is very comfortable.
Yeah.
What are some of the questions that you've asked people that you think were really powerful that people here today, if they're listening or watching, could use in their digital meetings with people to help understand people better? What are some of your favorite questions in interviews or questions in conversations that you feel have helped your intuitive abilities?
So if you are going to work with somebody, for me, the most important thing is what is our number one cultural value at Thrive, and this is compassionate directness. This is my number one cultural question, because in any relationship, whether personal or professional, things come up that you are not happy with. That frustrate you. I mean, you've talked about it even with your beloved wife. You may have arguments, disagreements. You need to have a way to express them. Otherwise, they fester and they become toxic. The same applies to professional relationships. And if you are not able to surface discontents, frustrations, disappointments, and express them, you can't deal with them. And Jay, it's much harder for people to do that than it sounds. So I try to dig deep. I asked for examples where they were able to be direct with a manager, with anybody. It's not just with peers, to express, to disagree. And I feel cultures that have achieved that are healthy, thriving cultures. And otherwise, a lot festers. If you come to me, if you work at Thrive and you come to me and complain about someone in the company, everybody knows. I'll say, okay, let me just bring them in, or let us just all get together on a Zoom and talk about it. I don't want to hear about it without the other person being present. I don't accept anybody coming to me to complain without that other person being there, so that everything can be aired together. That for me is number one. Unless, somebody comes and complains about something illegal or egregious or sexual harassment or something. I'm talking about the everyday complaints of people who work together.
Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. It's so, when you talk about your values so strongly, and I love that compassionate directness. Again, it's a paradox.
Yes, you want to be compassionate. You don't want to be adversarial, but you want to be
Yes,
direct.
yes,
How
yes,
do you
exactly.
find that? Are you good at that?
You know what, Ariana? I've realized that recruitment is a completely different skill to the attracting of energy in your life. So I feel like me and my wife have very similar values, and we've found that, thankfully. And I have really good friends, and I have really good relationships. But I find that recruitment is a real challenge. It's difficult to truly understand if you can be of service to that person, and if that person is also going to serve with the same values. And I think I'm learning. I think I'm genuinely speaking, I'm learning. I'm reading a lot about it. That's why I'm asking you about it. Is very useful. And I like how value-centered your approach is. Because I think today also what's really interesting is I was hosting a panel for LinkedIn the other day, or multiple panels. And one of the biggest talking points was around the difference in well-being needs of a diverse organization. So realizing that people from different demographics, different genders, different backgrounds, different walks of life need different support in well-being. What are you seeing in how well-being and diversity affect each other in the programs that you're implementing, especially when it comes to unconscious bias? It also comes to a lack of sensitivity to understanding someone's background.
Well, we actually have a whole training around the connection between well-being and diversity, because what we have found scientifically is that when you are exhausted and running on empty, you are less empathetic, you are the worst version of yourself. So you are less likely to be open to people who are different from you and to create a culture of belonging. Because diversity is not just a question of numbers. It's creating a culture of true belonging where everybody feels at home. It's not just to have so many African Americans and so many Asians, because what's the culture like? How
Yeah,
at home do
yeah.
they feel? How do
Well
they
said.
connect with everyone? So that, again, micro steps. Going back to the recruiting conversation, and that applies to people applying for jobs as much as to people hiring. Never enter that conversation if you are tired. No, it sounds very simple, but anytime I've interviewed and I'm tired, I miss all the subtle things.
Yes, yes.
And also psychologically, you just want to cross one more thing off your to-do list.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you are like more likely to just say, okay, good, that sounds good enough. Especially in times like we're living through now, when we can't just do maintenance. Like these times are challenging. We need to be able to access our creativity and our empathy and the best in us. And that's why it's more important than ever to prioritize our well-being.
How do you know, as someone who's been so successful, how have you known when to push and when to press pause? Because I feel that as you're on a journey of acceleration and growth and momentum, even when you're doing what you find purposeful, like I love what I do, but I work really hard at it. And over time, I've had to understand this balance between pushing and pressing pause. How have you find that? Like, how does someone know when to push forward, when to work a bit harder, when to stay up at night versus when to start pulling back? How do you find that balance?
Well, first of all, Jay, I've done it wrong so many times, including, as you know, finally collapsing from doing it wrong and hitting my head on my desk and breaking my cheekbone. So I learned the hard way and through a painful wake-up call. And what I'm clear about now is, first of all, there is no such thing as balance.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like you can balance, your work, your life as the same every day. That doesn't exist.
Agreed.
The key is, what are the baseline things you need to do to show up your best? For me, my baseline is sleep. And the science on sleep is categorical. Like, unless you have a genetic mutation, I don't know if you do, people with a genetic mutation only need 4 hours of sleep, and that's 1 to 1.5% of the population. The rest of us need somewhere between 7 and 9. Tom Brady famously says that he gets 9 hours of sleep a night, and he considers it absolutely instrumental to being able to win a Super Bowl at 43. So if he had said, I really want to win the Super Bowl, I'm just going to power through exhaustion and work out and train more, he would not win. That's really what is amazing, that our culture for centuries has believed something false.
Yeah.
I'll sleep when I'm dead, you snooze, you lose. And I went back, because I'm a bit of a nerd, to try and understand how come an entire culture has believed something false. And it goes back to the first industrial revolution, when we started revering machines. And what's the goal with machines? The goal with machines is to minimize downtime. And what's the goal with software? We brag, this piece of software has 99.999% uptime, but the human operating system is different. Downtime is a feature, not a bug.
Yeah.
And now we need to have this mindset shift that acknowledges that we are swimming in a culture that's driven by principles that are not science or data-based.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you're such an evangelist for this movement, because, I came to a point in my life where I realized I had two choices. I either slowed down or I invested more in my health. And what I realized was that the more I invested in my health and the more priority my sleep was, my exercise was, my diet was, the more I was actually able to extend myself. So a lot of the time when people told me that they just had too much on, my first question would be, do you exercise? And they would say, no, I haven't exercised for years. And I'd be like, okay. And then I'd say, well, do you sleep 7 to 9 hours? And they were like, no, I sleep like 6. And I was like, oh, okay. So you start to realize that a lot of our experience of low productivity or effectiveness or burnout is because we're not actually investing in our health. So I know that when I've exercised and when I've slept well, I can actually do more in less time. And as you said, you don't want to do an interview when you're tired because you make mistakes. You feel like you're actually making better decisions. This morning, I played an hour of tennis and I meditated for 2 hours before that. So now when you're getting me, you're getting like the best version of me. I also slept. I'm trying to think, how many hours did I sleep last night? Yeah, I slept 8.5, which is my sweet spot. I like 8.5 hours. So I slept 8.5 hours last night. So I'm able to give you my best energy. And you're so right that if I'd missed tennis today, if I didn't meditate, if I'd slept badly, I would feel like this was a lot harder, right? Like I would,
Yes,
even though it's the
exactly.
same thing.
And also it would feel just like another chore. Like,
Yes.
like, oh, another thing I have to do. And,
Yeah.
this is not a dress rehearsal. Even if you believe in reincarnation, this is it. So to find the joy in what we're doing, we need to come from that place of fullness. And
Yeah.
I'm so happy you are saying that. We need to shout it from the rooftops to help people eliminate their fear that if they invest in their health, they are not going to achieve all that they want to achieve because it is a fear. And a lot of people have achieved a lot through powering through. So you can have a lot of examples of that. But you can achieve more if you invest in your health, and also you can have live a life which has more meaning and purpose, because in the end the definition of a good life is not just a successful life in terms of money and status. It's also a life of well-being, tapping into our wisdom, giving, wonder. And if we miss out on all these things, we have a very shrunken view of existence.
Absolutely. Tell us, Ariana, I've got a few more questions for you before I let you go, but tell our audience how they can recognize if they're experiencing burnout. Because I feel that today we don't even know when we're experiencing burnout because we don't have that time to sit with ourselves and we're not aware. What are the signs of burnout that someone can be aware of so that they can say, you know what? I need to start doing what Ariana is saying. I need to do that 60-second check-in. I need to put my phone away in the evening. I need to sleep for 7 to 9 hours. What are the signs of burnout that we miss because we're so busy that we don't even realize what we're going through?
First of all, that's such a good question because we do miss the signs and we need to kind of fine tune our antenna. I would say there are three signs that are predominant. And the first is actually when we begin to be very negative and cynical about our work, our lives. That's a sign that we are not connected to our center and our essence. The other is when we really wake up in the morning and everything feels like drudgery.
Mm,
Like we can still do things, we can be transactional and get through a busy schedule, but we have to be pushing ourselves. And often we find ourselves going to carbs or sweets to give ourselves energy. And I love my coffee, nothing wrong with coffee, but I stop having caffeine at 2 o'clock so that it doesn't affect my sleep. And noticing, all these like ways that we try to fuel ourselves because we don't really have any natural healthy fuel in us. And the other is very simply our productivity. I mean, you can see it in any area of your life. When you're running on all cylinders, things can be done so much faster. You are clearer. And when you're exhausted, it's like, I mean, for me, like trying to write an article when I'm exhausted seems like overwhelming. So there are so many little signs that we can begin to notice. And the other thing I'm a big believer in, and we practice at Thrive, is having an accountability buddy. You probably do that with your wife, but having somebody who can say to you, hey, Jay, you seem off today, or you haven't done this, and not in a critical way, but can you stop for 60 seconds? Is there something this afternoon that we can reschedule? Kind of see see your schedule also as something that is fungible. If you're not feeling fully yourself, there are some things that can't be rescheduled
Yeah.
unless you're really on your deathbed, and other things that you can reschedule.
Yeah, I love that. The accountability thing for me is huge. I know that I need someone to keep me accountable in different areas of my life, whether it's exercise, whether it's diet, and having that commitment. And what I find is the most important thing about accountability is being ready to receive feedback. Because you can find an accountability partner and you can find an accountability buddy, but if you don't want to be told that you're wrong or that you could improve something, it all goes wrong. And I find that with my wife, she's so good, but if I have my big ego on that day, you don't allow yourself to receive it because you just want to defend yourself. No, I'm getting it right. But I've found that in my own practice, being able to be humble enough to actually hear someone out and realize they're telling you for your own good. Like my wife will always say to me, eat slower, eat slower. She'll always say to me, you're eating too fast. And I'll be like, yeah, but I've got so much to do. I'm so busy. I've got to go to this place. And she's just saying it for my own good. She's just, she's not saying it for her body. She's saying it for my digestion and my body. And I think being able to receive humbly is a really, I definitely, it's something I think that we all struggle with and can work on more. But Ariana, you've been amazing. I want to ask you what we always do, which is our final 5. You were amazing last time. This is our last 5 questions, which you answer in 1 word or 1 sentence maximum. That's it. So these are your final 5 questions. So the first question, Ariana, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, great. The first question is, what's the first thing you do in the morning?
The first thing I do in the morning is the 60 seconds to set my intention for the day.
Amazing. I love that. What's the last thing you do at night?
The last thing is to write down 3 things I was grateful for the day, from the day.
Beautiful. Question number 3. A habit you wish you started earlier?
Recognizing that life is shaped from the inside out, and that changes all the habits.
I love it. Question number 4. A habit you're trying to develop right now or something you're trying to work on right now?
I'm working on reactivity. So being less reactive, taking deep breaths, and then acting or saying something.
Nice. I like that. Okay. And 5th and final question, your favorite micro step from the book, Your Time to Thrive?
So my favorite micro step beyond everything we discussed is the recognition of the superpower of our breath. And specifically practicing what Navy SEALs practice, box breathing. I know that's more than a sentence, but inhale to the count of 4, pause to the count of 4, exhale to the count of 4.
Absolutely. Great advice, great insights. Everyone, please, 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 if you're listening to this right now, Your Time to Thrive will be available everywhere books are sold. Make sure you go and grab a copy. I really believe that right now is the time to build these micro steps when we're in this stress, in this pressure, in this challenging situation. There's no better time. Don't wait for the right time or a good time or a better time to build these micro steps. If you build them right now, you're going to feel so strong, so confident, and so powerful when we move out of this space slowly into the future. Ariana, I thank you for your amazing insights. I loved everything you shared today, and they're so practical yet so philosophical. And I miss you. I just want to hang out with you again and see you.
We need to break bread together. And let me know what color you want. And I'll send you onward, upward, inward, words to leave you with.
If you want even more videos just like this one, make sure you subscribe and click on the boxes over here. I'm also excited to let you know that you can now get my book, Think Like a Monk, from thinklikeamonkbook.com. Check below in the description to make sure you order today.